We were the anti-nuclear capital of the world. I was an autistic kid. My father was a drafted United States Marine, an incredible man. I come from an incredible family. My uncle stood on Omaha Beach on D-Day. I grew up on a huge ranch out by the lake. He was a beautiful, incredible person. He was at Pendleton, combat ready, and they were human guinea pig. They were marched into the trenches in Nevada. They're called atomic veterans. He nearly died at the blast. Between 1951 and 1968, we had 300 open-air tests. Well, as different scientists started to write about this, Wallace Stegner was at the University of Utah at the time. I got to know him. Edward Abbey was hanging around there. I got to know him. I got to know all these environmentalists, and I was an environmentalist, and it was a passionate, intense subject matter there.
All nuclear fighters, all hands on deck, all hands on deck, all hands on deck. All nuclear fighters, all hands on deck, all hands on deck, all hands on deck. They'll be calling you a radical. Bloomgate, 311, whatever you want to call it. I call it Pacific genocide, whatever. It's fucking giant conspiratorial across all demographics. All nuclear fighters, all hands on deck, all hands on deck, all hands on deck. They'll be calling you a radical. All nuclear fighters, all hands on deck, all hands on deck, all hands on deck. Bloomgate, 311, whatever you want to call it. I call it Pacific genocide, whatever. It's fucking giant conspiratorial across all demographics. They'll be calling you a radical. May God have mercy on all of your souls.
Nuclear power was evolving. We were promised, oh, this can't happen. It will never happen. We cannot have a meltdown.
Well, good morning. Hope everybody can come out of their dogma snuggies. Seems like I thought people were starting to get out of their dogma snuggies. Their dogma, eating so many dogs. I thought they were getting better with their dogma burgers. Looks like they're getting worse. But got a lot of talk about, a lot of breaking news. The plot thickens up there along the Alaskan coast. There's breaking news out the last day that the newly elected Juneau mayor was found dead. And the police have already said it was not a suicide. Foul play, it looks like it. I mean, it's crazy. Calm, cool, collected dude. Ran a very higher ground thing, but here's the piece that people don't know. You know how me I go. He comes out of the fishing industry, out of the hierarchy of the fishing industry. I'm so connected with that industry over the last 4 years because of people watch my YouTube and call. I mean, I have activists in Alaska that are very quiet. I have activists up and down that call me and give me freaking reports of what's really going on in the ocean. I have people inside. Now, look, the fishing industry is no different than the rest of the United States of usury. Free market fairy tales. So what happens when you have no protections, it funnels tighter and tighter, 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 and then it becomes monarchy. That's feudalism. It's a feudal system. We've gotten there. We've had industries. I mean, Walmart moves into your town, just gobbles up and annihilates every business. Home Depot moves in, just gobbles up and that. And all these industries, including the media, they just funnel tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. No different in the fishing industry. You got one really guy. He lives in Irvine, and he's built a house in Irvine. It's against the law. You know, the lawyers and the Mormon Church and these rats that developed all that property in Irvine and turned it into the Irvine Cove. I mean, you want to talk to some evil pricks down there. So they think they're in the club, including, I think, Zuckerberg's bought houses up and down all over there. So they have a code you can only build so high. So he built it all underground, whatever. But so the fishing industry is controlled really by one dude. I mean, one group, just like every other industry. It's become a neo-pyramid scheme. So what they do in the fishing industry, and I have a friend who I grew up with here, who used to be a good blogger and blogger here, that I run into in one of the protests that I went to. I think it was the anti-Monsanto, one of them, that I was here in Utah a few years ago when I was very sick. He says, Kevin, I've been watching your videos, and so he says, I want to talk to you. He says, I left here many, many years ago. I have a blog. But he says, I work up there in Alaska. I have for 30 years. I come back, but I work inside the plant. And this was well over 2 years ago. He says, look, they're searching us as we go in. It's against the law to take any video device, whatever, and they make us sign contracts that if we do video or put anything out or whistleblow or whatever, it's not only termination, we can go after you, financially, criminally, whatever. He says, I'm here to tell you, the herring, your fish burgers, and this was well 2.5 years, he says, they're coming in, they got little sores all over them. And he says, they're not parasites. I've been doing this for 4 years. So it's funneled up. So we know that this guy worked in that mouth. He was the mouthpiece for them, one of the PR. That PR's for them. Look, the fishing industry is, the United States tourism economy, their economy is solely based on two things. It's based on tourism, and it's based on the United States Disneyland thesis. So all these industries rely on people. They divide up and they turn themselves into a cartoon character. I got a Harley, so they dress up in the garb, put the things on it. It's like everybody's. I'm a hunter, so I get my camels, my hat, my truck, everything, and they just branded people and just feed them this. Here's the playbook. You're a hunter. Here's the playbook. They have the same thing for the so-called recreational fishermen, which is a major, major industry, especially in Oregon. I mean, think about what it costs to go catch a fish. The Bookings fishing tournament, 400 boats on the water. You know what those boats cost? And these industries, they just lie. I've been involved with so many of these industries and fighting with them in these 4 years. And they used to get mad at me. When I was at Avila, in Oregon, fishermen would come right up to me. Oh, you're Kevin Blanch. You can't. I said, no, don't shoot the messenger. Why don't you go after the people that are killing the Pacific Ocean? They'd come out of denial. I'm here to tell you. I get reports up and down. But now you're going to see, like a guy kind of me, I witnessed it. You're going to get pockets where they're still catching fish. I mean, it's just not. It's like radiation. You think it just. Winston Churchill said, unless it happens 2 inches away from an American's nose, he doesn't give a shit. It's true. So unless you see blood coming out of things, heads blowing off, whatever, blah, blah, it's not a killer. The ocean is dying just like humanity is dying in the United States. It's exactly the same way cancer plays out. It's not just going to freaking bloop all dead. It's a genocide. I mean, that's the word genocide. The genocide word was termed in where? Italy. Mussolini. A genocide. Which the word wasn't coined, but genocide was going on long before the 1930s. The Western United States. Well, the United States. Columbus Day. He's a man of God. What? Any 100 million of them? Wow. Big ones, little ones. So anyway, he came out of this industry. Was he a whistleblower? Was he going to be I have no idea. But I think it's ironic that these types always seem to go to the denial. So these pyramid scheme owners, these people at the top, they love it just the way it is. I mean, you think about it. They got all the power. They're kings. They're royals. They think. That's why I call Fukushima the great equalizer. Because they're so arrogant and intoxicated with their own sickening greed, they believe they can live forever, which they don't. They get cancer that too. It's so indiscriminate. Cancer is so indiscriminate. Again, the great equalizer. So he's found dead the exact same day the FDA comes out with their bullshit Alaskan fish study the second year in a row. Now, I'm going to dive into the study, and I'm going to talk about this. If you believe this study, you will believe anything, though, I got to tell you. You'll believe the bank bailout was good. You'll believe Pat Tillman was fighting off 800 al-Qaeda. You'll believe Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction. You'll believe that those terrorists flew those planes into those towers because they hate our style of life and our way of living. I mean, you'll believe any of that if you believe anything, the FDA. And it's not, look, the boy that cried wolf on Balco. Now you think about it. The FDA has a hardcore proven track record of being blatant, in-your-face liars. Now, Jan Miss-McGuire did that great video on in defense of Dana Dunford and his spat with Jay Collin. And she did that one, and she went into the tobacco executives and the FDA. The FDA blatantly, hardcore lied to protect the tobacco industry for decades, and just up till recently, and proven their lie. Of course, no accountability. I mean, it's so outrageous. Their lies killed so many millions of people. They don't care. So the FDA comes out with their study in Alaska in symphony with Woodhull's. So Woodhull says Ken Buesler's study, his sample sets he's going on, he says there is small traces, low levels, and we know how they handle the levels. Barack Obama handled all this. Real simple. Marie Antoinette, the nuclear darling, the puppet for the nuclear, the greatest puppet for the nuclear industry in world history is Barack Obama. David Axelrod, the whole freaking thing. They tricked everybody. Everybody thought he was black. Everybody thought he was a progressive. Everybody thought he was social equality. Everything thought he was going to, go after him. He was, worse than Bush. Well, that's hard to do. I mean, but as bad, environmentally, he's the worst catastrophe to the world. And one man really is the worst person to the environment in world history. And if you don't believe me, you know nothing about British petroleum leak in the Gulf and the spraying of the disbursement. And you know nothing about the cover-up of Fukushima. Fukushima is the greatest ecological catastrophe. The second greatest ecological catastrophe is probably on right now, maybe ever. Chernobyl, maybe. But how about this one in Brazil that's ongoing right now? Oh, my God. And it's so arrogant. These, again, royal families around the world, including China, just raping Brazil. Look what they did. Have you seen the footage and video of what they did? Oh, my God. Wow, 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 wow. So the FDA comes out with this study, and it says, now I'm going to dive into the study, because I've been fighting with these guys the whole way, with the professor at Long Beach State. Me and Joe talked to him for a long time. For an hour, we had a conversation with him, with all these guys. Now, look, the only one that tells the truth really is Ken Buesler, and he's such a softball painter, but he says it. There ain't nobody studying. And when they do study, here's the flaw. Now, I'm diving into this. So Fukushima happens on 3/11/2011. Okay, we know for a fact the Japanese current flows into the California current, and it's very, very, very swift. We know that we don't even understand. Sailors call the tuna the silver streak. Fastest creatures on Earth, maybe. People don't even understand them this day. This is how fast and swift and, so they go in and out of the currents. They swim in and out of them. So in August of 2011, they pick up this softball panty painter at Stony Brook, started putting out these data because they call it a tracer study. The tracer study, this is how sick they are. Oh, Fukushima's going to get, because we're going to be able to understand the migration pattern of the tuna, which we've never been able to understand. So they're working on that. Just happens that Fukushima happened. So they test cesium-134 and cesium-137, which we know for a fact the half-life is very short. It's just a couple years. So they go through it. They find traces of Fukushima already. Now, we know the bridge that was landed on the beach at Eugene, Oregon, from Fukushima, Japan, made it just a few days. So we know it was here for a few days. So here's the flaw of the whole process. So they go in and they say, we're going to do background studies. They don't do them in 2011. They don't do them in 2012. And they know what the background studies are from the Bikini Atolls, from the nuclear test in Nevada, from the dumping in by the French nuclear industry into the Mediterranean, from the English in Australia offshores. They all know the bioaccumulation that's there. It's been well documented in heavy studies. So they know the background. They know what the background was in the Pacific Ocean on 3/10/11 to a T. There's the flaw and the lie of these studies. This proves the malice of this whole thing. It goes clear back to when this whole thing, a nuclear accident, Fukushima's a 7, right? Oh, it's only a 7. Now think about an industry that sets the worst catastrophe on a scale of 1 to 7. Not 1 to 10. That's malice from inception. That's the malice right off the get. So the malice on this is they know what the background, so they wait to set the background studies in 2014, January of 2014, almost 3 years after Fukushima's happened. Well, we know the half-life of cesium-134 and 31 is some of the different, and by the way, there's so many chemicals coming off in Fukushima, I call it plutonium. They don't even know any of them, but they know the half-life's very short in some of them. But in others, it's millions of years. Moxie fuel 1-3. So the study is completely 100% flawed. Now, when he did his study at Long Beach State and the FDA, this is where, I'm an old stats guy. You have your NSET. When you do your NSET, you cannot go in with a bias. If you go in with a bias, a kid comes into the class, whatever, and he's got a bias, or you throw it out. Well, here's where their bias was. They said in his study down there, we expect to find nothing. That's as hardcore bias you can. The study's worthless right there. You're biased before you start. That's the state. But in factual detail, the study's biased because they're using backgrounds from January 2014. It's the same philosophy they did on the milk, the same philosophy they did on radiation, RadNet. The levels went so high that they just simply raised the limits 4 separate times, over 1,200 times on children. It was the dream come true to the nuclear cash cow. So they set the FDA studies, the background studies, and they're finding. Now, you can go right to the study and look at it, and they'll say, here's the lie. They're finding no traces of Fukushima. Yes, they are finding traces. You can look right on it. There's the number. What it is, they're finding the traces in all the fish in their study are under the legal limit. Well, they raised the legal limit. So, for instance, I believe the salmon showed on the FDA study, I was reading it last night, the FDA salmon study, I believe the becquerel level is 2.14 they had raised to, which was like used to be 0.26 or 0.28. They raised it to 2.16, 10 times. So the level comes in on the salmon at 1.76, I believe on cesium 137. So that would have been, 5, 6, 7 times over the old legal limit. But now they just say no traces. When they, in their own study, they're showing their findings. It doesn't hit the standard. So simply just raise the standard. So the studies are worthless, and they're flawed. We know the FDA has an incredible track record. I mean, you just go back to the tobacco industry, what they've done. Look at the beef industry. When I was in Europe, they banned American beef in Europe 30 years ago. Still to this day, you don't get beef in there. There's billboards all over in Europe, and it's a steak in the shape of the United States. And it says, don't even bleep and try it, And so they know that this country is handed over, lock, stock, barrel, to the tiny few, and it's funneled up. So at the same time this study comes up, this guy's dead in Genoa. Well, I guess we'll see it play out. But if you think the media, now you think about it, murder mysteries are the number 1 selling books ever. People eat up murder mysteries. I mean, television program, investigative journalist, 2020, 48 hours. I mean, and it's always been what people are incredibly intrigued by it. So think about the biggest murder mystery in a long, 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 long time is unfolding in not one single piece of media. This is how controlled they have the media. This is how this is such a tight-knit club. You look at board of directors at Disney, at Apple, at Google, freaking NBC, all of them, they're the exact identical same people. They sit on multiple boards. They're the same small group of people. So the head of the COO of Facebook, her name's Sheila. That's not her name. It's very easy to Google her real name. She goes clear back to the Rothschilds. She is Google themselves will put her net worth just in public at $2 billion. And she's in her 40s. So she's married to the NSA guy, the spy monkey. He's a skull and crossbones right at Harvard Law, right with Barry Antoinette, both of them, right there out of the same group, the cabal. So it comes out, this is a billionaire. Now, this company's going under, blah, blah, well, that doesn't matter. These companies buy each other, blah, blah, blah. We know that Silicon Valley is 100% taken over by NSA. She was placed. She was an ass. Think about Zuckerberg. He didn't invent Facebook. He didn't do anything. Stole it. Where did he come from? Think about where he was going to school at the time. Same group. So she's placed in there by the apparatus, which is totally legal. Well, it's not totally legal if you believe the Patriot Act is legal. the Patriot Act trumped the entire Constitution. So they come out, he's dead. I mean, major story. You're talking a billionaire, married to a billionaire. The major story. You know, NSA, I mean, this thing's got more fingers and more intrigue in it than you could ever believe. I mean, this would be one of the greatest murder mysteries ever. You'd think every news program would be all over this. So he supposedly just fell and hit his head on a treadmill. Nobody around. So Four Seasons comes out, exclusive resort, Mexico. So they have one of the best surveillance systems in the world. Not only did he not fall off the treadmill here, he was never on our property. He is quickly brought to the, I don't even know where he died, whatever, very quickly buried. The board of directors meeting at Disney is canceled because she's on the board of directors of Disney at her age. And then the story just brushed under the table. You know, you go back to Pat Tillman. You go back to Michael Hastings. You go to Aaron Swartz. Nobody in the United States even reported the death of Aaron Swartz. Such a major, major story. In fact, RT, we started the Million Mass March in 2013. John Anthony, his cousin, come up with this idea, run it by me, and boom, they pick me up at the airport in Baltimore, and we just do it. And it's grown into what it is. But it was all rooted around Aaron Swartz. We knew what happened to Aaron Swartz. We knew we were following along Aaron Swartz. Aaron Swartz, you know, and they were trying to prop him up at Yale and Harvard, turn him into one of these guys. You know, he was going to be like Barack Obama. He was young, he was progressive, he was brilliant, he's talented. So they go to him, you know, this is a kid who dropped out of junior high. He understood the academia hijacked. Brilliant, incredibly brilliant. You know, started Reddit, started all these things. I mean, what a powerhouse he was. So he starts to, you know, the same thesis as mine. You know, my fight with the university going on when they destroyed our university, and when Dr. Cooley died, I'm like, what are you talking about? PhDs are not transparent anymore. What are you talking about? It's peer review. What are you talking about? He was the same way. What are you talking about? MIT's not a private institution. They get all this incredible funding, and then all this PhD work, all this academic work is hidden away? No, that's not right. That's against the law. That's against the First Amendment of the Constitution. That's illegal. So he started fighting back on it, you know, and he had a big army. He had a lot of following. And it's just like any other activist. What happened in the United States, everybody drank the Kool-Aid. And he really felt, there's no doubt in my mind, that he felt like he would get support from the American populace, just like Megan Rice did, just like Pat Tillman's family did, just like, you know, Michael Hastings. We were brought up in this country and we're taught that this fairy tale that we're taught, which I think it existed for a while, I know it did, that if you stand on moral ground and you stand up for what's right, Rosa Parks, or whoever, media will rally around you. The American populace will rally around you and protect you. For the first time, I think, maybe it happened in the antebellum South, you know, Harriet Beecher Stowe, but she had the money to rally people around her with Uncle Tom's Cabin. But, so, they don't rally around. So nobody rallied around Aaron Swartz. He's like, so he goes into the MIT's media lab in that little room, I think it's room 458. He goes into that little room. It's hard to find whatever, and he just takes a little device, plugs it in, just downloads. Okay, he made his stand, Rosa Parks. You know, I guess he broke the law. Well, as Rosa Parks said, that law's wrong. And that he was just making his statement, making his stand. You know, so go through a thing, media will wrap around him. He'll make his statement, you know, he'll get a slap on the hands. He'll be, you know, do a small little jaunt in jail. And he'll be a, you know, national hero and change the law and change the world. Megan Rice thought the same thing, you know, but it doesn't happen because they have the media. And the American populace has no conscience. They don't care. They don't care. They're sick. They're hypnotized. They're drunk. They're dogma. They've chosen up. They don't care. So it was an overzealous freaking prosecutor in Massachusetts. Oh no, this is coming right from the top, the feds. He was such a danger to this cabal of evil and this control mechanism. We're going to make an example out of him. I mean, think about it. They did it to Megan Rice. If it wasn't for our army and our group, Megan Rice would still be in prison. It was our group that got out. You don't think those two judges Those two judges, the two to overrule 2-1, it was our incredible activism. You don't think they ever watched our videos or ever think any of the news about Megan Rice? You know, thank God those two judges stood up. It was still 2-1. The producer, she'd still be in. This is an 85-year-old nun who just simply made a stand. You know, they're insane. So they did that to Aaron Swartz. He charges him, he tells him, okay, we're going to threaten you with 35 years in prison. Okay, whatever. I get a good group of attorneys. My dad's going to support me, stand up. $1 million worth of attorney fees. These worthless scumbag rat attorneys. Or Aaron Swartz, his family. That's what these attorneys do. They didn't. He would have been better off representing himself. So he goes in. These people, I mean, they're hardcore. American Poppies doesn't rally around him because they're afraid of their own shadow. They're cowards. So the coward economy, they rally around him. The fear porn, the Operation Foxconn. I mean, I love it how people think they're patriots when they're the most unpatriotic thing in the world. Right out of England, the people we threw out, they're the opposite of everything. Wrap yourself in the flag. They're completely opposite. They just laugh. So nobody rallies around him. You know, he's trying to negotiate. He's trying to dance. He's heartbroken that, you know, no media, no nothing. You got no media, zero. RT ranked in 2013 that the #1 story that no one knew about in the world. They ranked us starting the Million Mass March as the #3 story that no one knew about in the world, which is growing and growing and growing. The activism has been growing at a grassroots level from that is incredible. So he tries to dance out of it. They won't dance out of it. You're going to go to prison for 35 years, and they won't get a budge. Can you imagine at 26 years old? They prop him up on a pedestal, put him up on a pedestal, and, you know, you're this great, I mean, you're going to change the world. He bought into the American fairy tale. No one come around him. As we say, the rest is history. So I want to talk to all the anti-nuclear activists in the grassroots, especially post-Fukushima. I've been at this a long, long time. And I want to talk about this, address this to other podcasts, other people, whatever. Look, there's a lot of great podcasts, a lot of great activists out there. Everybody has their own style. It's important that you maintain your own style and you do your thing and you not waver and not let people change you and posture and groom you. David Dunford has his style. I mean, who he is who he is. I think he knows exactly what he's up to. Exactly. He's smart. His work, on the water, I think his work's unarguable. I think his work is an incredible PhD, one of the greatest PhDs ever done. You know, and that whole boat thing would have never happened if it was not for me. But thank goodness it did. So, for other people that question his motives and his ways don't do it. I don't hear him questioning your ways and whatever, and you have your ways and you have your ways, and stay with them. We need all of you. But don't attack another activist for his ways and his style. It's beyond ridiculous. We need the whole crowd. And he knows exactly what he's doing, please. He is smart as smart. It's almost like he exactly wanted all this exactly to happen. I think there's no doubt he did. He's playing them. He's a step ahead of them. You know, beautifully, eloquently. And did he break the law? Well, in the United States, I don't think there would be any question that he did not. But he lives in Canada, so we'll see this out. But I think he knows exactly what he's doing. And it smelled a lot of skunks out of the hole. Look at the Daily Mail. You know, look at these people that are just, you know, in their uranium mines. It shows you that they've chosen money over life. So the activist community is a very dangerous gig. You know, post Fukushima, you know, all in. So many people. So many great activists. But in the United States, we have the First Amendment of the United States. Canada does not. Canada is owned by the Queen, just like Teddy Roosevelt said when he went into Cuba and threw the Spanish out. Told McKinley, I'm going to Canada next. She needs to go. You know, who do these English think they are? This isn't, you know, the last of the Mohicans. What are they going to do about it? Which, by the way, if we decided to do it right now, and if we had a conscious government and a straw gun with this military beast that the Queen's grown up in the United States, what happens when it turns on her? And everybody realizes in the United States that she's played them, and, you know, they own Canada. It has nothing to do with against the Canadian people, just like Teddy said, no. What's she going to do about it? What are these whales going to do? They're not going to do anything. Calling their freaking inbred cousins from Russia again, like they did at Waterloo, not going to work this time. Take it away. Because she rules. She's the queen of the roost still in Canada and in Australia, by the way. It's still English colonies. Still. Factually. You know, and they can't break that. So the Queen's law still exists. So he's up against the Queen's law. So we'll see how it plays out. My guess is, and it's just my guess, he's a smart dude. I think the prosecutors up there, I think Canadians are logical people for the most part. I think there's some, you know, insane, freaking mentally ill, sick trolls and rats that camp up there. They got no lives, but they're inconsequential. They think they are, but they're not. So my guess is there'll be a plea bargain struck with him, you know, on lesser charges. And I don't think there'll be any jail time. And I think, you know, it'll be a deal struck, whatever. And he made a statement, like Rosa Parks, and we move on. Now, the academia community, they want to keep going with Masquerade Party, you know, fine, whatever. You know, again, the regurgitation of so-called the scientific community, when the scientific community, Ken Buesler comes right out and says, there's nobody studying the ocean. Now, well, I know their fact. There is one group that is studying the ocean. The United States Navy and the Marines. They have the data. They have the data. They told me behind closed doors many times about the data. They're not going to release that data. They can't because there's one person that rules over the top of the Joint Chief of Staff, the Commander-in-Chief. That's one thing about the President of the United States. Congress has incredible power, and you can't do anything without Congress to make a lot, except when it comes to the military. When the military goes to one person, the President of the United States. We know that inside the Situation Room, they were told to stand down. They sent 8 ships into Fukushima, Japan. It wasn't just the USS Reagan. 8 ships, including, was widely reported, even CNN reported it, credibility not needed, before they were reeled in, that the mitigation ship, yes, the Navy has a radiation mitigation ship. That's all they did, was sent in. And then turned around, backed out. They even lab ratted those men on that 8 ships. The Marines were told to stand down. The Navy was told that. They want an end to entomb right now. So now you got the dog and pony show that's going on right now that, oh, Russia wants to help. France wants to help because it's the bank bailout on Balco. So what they're doing was, I said it was going to happen. This is going to be the biggest bailout in human history. They're just feeding. So when you say Russia's going to go, and then you read in it, it's Russian nuclear companies. They're just going to feed at the trough and get money, just like they did at Chernobyl, just like Westinghouse did, just like General Electric. They just line up at the trough. And you, the American taxpayer, that's right, in Japan, you, the American taxpayer, will pay for this. If you start totaling up the subsidy to nuclear, Price Anderson, all of it, the subsidy that goes to nuclear, it dwarfs the bank bailout. And the bank bailout, it's been said, and I think it's pretty accurate work, that the bank bailout equates to right around $50,000, $50,000 per man, woman, and child. That went to a teeny few people. Now think about it. If this was a real country with a republic with a constitution who really give a damn about their people, let's say that money spread out. What an economic stimulus that would have been, huh? Instead of the opposite, the neo-feudalist fills up to the top, just like the fishing industry. Now we know report after report after report after report is coming in. They grandstand because of tourism economy, Alaska, fishing, Washington, Canada, Oregon, especially Oregon. Oregon relies heavily on their salmon runs as their fishing industry, on their piers. They're trying to become the new California, a cultural theme park. Come freaking fishing and drink our freaking good beers. So people do it. They spend a lot of money. So the United States government, in symphony with the state of Oregon because of the collapse of the salmon that had been going on, the ecocide that had been going on inside the salmon industry for 100 years, really dumped hundreds and hundreds of millions, billions of dollars into the comeback of the salmon. So they built hatcheries. They did the whole 9 yards, and they've been working on this for 20 years, more than 20, 30 years. So all the money and resources pointed to their hard work and everything they did to the total comeback was pointed towards 2015. The year 2015 was going to be the official mission accomplished. They got it all back. So they grandstand. You can look them up. Look it up. You Google salmon fishing in Oregon 2015 and just read these blogs and these vlogs, and a lot of them put up by the state of Oregon, the feds, NOAA. Record runs expected. Record runs. Come get your boat. Buy another boat. Buy your fishing line. Buy all your things. Come get it. Come get it. They just pounded it. They pounded it. Let's talk about the reality of how it came in. The reality, how did it really come in? It's still freaking grandstanding it. Pathetic. Like everything else. Now they have, 3-4 year life cycles? So the Chinook in California, this is the LA Times, that rag is even reporting this 3 days ago, that the famous California Chinook salmon basically extinct. Of course they're blaming it on the drought. Of course they freaking blame it on the algae plume. It's like cancer. That's all we ever hear with cancer. It's the same thesis that's going percentage, man. The cure, the cure, the cure, the cure, the cure, the cure, the cure. That's all we hear. We've NFL dressing up in pink, the cure. We walked and we pulled hands, the cure, the cure, the cure, which I'm all for that. But no one talks about the cause. Never the cause. Same thing with the freaking ocean. Oh, the ocean's heating up, it's all dying. Oh, it's the byproduct, the reactionary society. What about the cause? What's causing it to heat up? Global warming. Well, anybody that's in denial about global warming is a fool. Of course it's heated up. The data's freaking prove it. Look at the western United States. The globe's getting hotter and hotter and hotter, more extreme. It's a fact. Now, what's causing it? There's where they get into their freaking game playing their shiny stick. What about nuclear? 410 nuclear, hell of a way to boil water. Hell of a way to boil water. Hell of a way to boil water. Albert Einstein. He hated nuclear energy. He thought it was the most ridiculous thing in the world. He was a peace actor. He hated nuclear bombs. He hated nuclear energy. He said at the end of his life, the biggest mistake he ever made was writing that handwritten letter to Franklin Roosevelt, telling him that Hitler probably had this crazy bomb, and he's the one that turned on the faucet of the Manhattan Project. Fear. It never turned off. And these monsters learned what a control mechanism it is and what a powerhouse it is, the greatest in human history, the greatest cash cow by billions of times in human history. So many of these billionaires have got millionaires and billionaires have got their fingers, and none of them work. You go to Livermore, which 2 years on Thanksgiving, I protested on Thanksgiving in Livermore. One of the creepiest of all my activism, one of the creepiest things I ever did. We had Thanksgiving in 7-Eleven. It was so creepy out there. That place is creepy. It was reported to have an incredible suicide rate out there, I'd imagine. Bringing star power to Earth. It's the creepiest place in the world. How much do those private contractors make out there? Miko Kako even says it. You go to Berkeley, which is the head of a snake. Look what they did to J. Robert, the peace activist. You go there. Teller, you think about the most evil human being that maybe ever lived in the history of mankind was Teller. That Hungarian, born in Hungarian, at the end of his life, still trying to put nuclear tips on Star Wars, Reagan. I don't care what I've done. I don't care how I poisoned. I don't care how many atomic marines I freaking human lab rat. I don't care. As long as I stop them Prussians. That's all they cared. So they find him. And it just goes wild. They pushed anybody who was logical and sensible, Einstein, J. Robert Oppenheimer, they pushed him out. They found this guy. He's willing to go on with it. I was in New York, got to listen to Dr. Scheer speak. Who knew him, Teller, personally? Knew him personally. He says, the guy, I mean, he would sit in the hot room, just walk in, have pizza. He says it was a game to them. Still is. Bringing star power to Earth. It's just a giant cash cow. They're underneath Fukushima. They're just dumping billions and trillions of dollars inside the situation. John Holdren, the eugenicists. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on. Head of the science and technology team before Fukushima happened. He's a eugenicist. He wrote books about it. Cal Berkeley. The Caucus says, so they find you, give you a scholarship, a fellowship there, turn you into a nuclear physicist. Then they don't ask you, they tell you where you're going to work. They told him, no, you're working here at Livermore. You're working here at Berkeley. We're the freaking nuclear cartel. This is the mob. We gave you the money. We found you. We freaking educated. We gave you the fellowship just like they did Aaron Swartz. He's like, fuck you. No, I'm not. He says it straight up. They threatened to kill him. So they did Aaron Swartz. So they find Barack Obama. They find the unlucky guy. They find her. You know, they fit their mold. They fit their, and they prop him up. And as Morgan said about Teddy Roosevelt, we bought the son of a bitch and he wouldn't stay bought. So they buy him. Aaron Swartz wasn't for sale. Michael Hastings wasn't for sale. Pat Tillman wasn't for sale. They stood up. They stood up like we're taught to do in America. We're taught doing this fairy tale freaking thing. But not anymore, because the American populace is all for the culture of hate, the culture of fear, the culture of repression. They've all gone along with it. Johnny got his gun. It's an incredible economy of fear. It's an incredible shakedown. Yet everybody goes along with it. You know, it's like the free market fairy tales. They sign NAFTA. They get rid of all tariffs. That was what the country was incepted on. They get rid of them all. And it's been a horrible, horrible, incredible disaster. It's been an economical catastrophe. Yet they have branded everybody. So because of their ignorance and their dogma, they're so hardcore branded that they go along with it. Just look up the trading balance from 1994 present. Remember Ross Perot? Whoosh. Oh boy. Well, he was right. But you can't, people don't care about the truth. They don't care about right and wrong. They don't care about the facts. Look at the participation rate in this country. You know, the 0% interest rate, all it's done is created this unicorn economy. It's all based on fake real estate values. They gutted all the jobs. And it's just American company owners, these oligarchs and these freaking slave owners, the same people. As America goes, GM goes. GM went bankrupt and moved to China. The same people own them, the same factories. All they did is just group over there, got rid of all environmental protection. They backdoored environmental protection laws. They backdoored tax laws. They backdoored labor laws. That's simple. So the laws, the laws were in place, healthy America. Well, we can't beat the laws, we can't change the laws, so let's just backdoor the laws. Let's move to China. Well, how do you stop that? Tariff. Same thing, the freaking East India Company dressed up like Indians, threw the tea overboard. They were craftsmen. First, they come for the craftsmen. Paul Revere was a craftsman, one of the greatest silversmiths in world history, unarguable, still to this day. Same with the furniture makers, the best in the world. They were tired of East India cheap junk dumping on their freaking markets. First 8 employees of the United States were the Coast Guard, blocking the East Indian Company from bringing in China. They charged duties. The duty house is still right there in New York. So, I'm the great tariff president, standing on the great tariff platform. The most anti-rural president maybe ever. Kinley. Bang. You know, it's like political theater. People, Real Politics wrote an article talking about McKinley here a while back. And it's just how ignorant they are, talking about what a genius Karl Rove was. Karl Rove is no genius. He's a weasel, little creepy weasel. He didn't freaking bolster the Republican Party. He ruined the Republican Party. Oh, he's a mastermind. He never won an election. He ruined it where they can't win an election. He never won one single election, ever, not one. They stole one. You know, was he one who really stole it? Well, he stole it in 2004 with his machines. We know Friday he tried it again, but Anonymous blocked him. Aaron Swartz's people blocked him. They said they hit the firewall 220 times. Look up Tom Hartman's piece on the 2008 and the 2012 election. Look it up. Karl Rove bought the backup machines. Again, another whistleblower right here from Utah, dead. So Karl Rove buys the backup machines, his super PAC, that little weasel creep from BYU law here. So they default the freaking machines in Ohio. His people, his hackers, default the machines. So the entire election flips, and then it defaults to his company. He's got the company for the backup. That's what they did. It's well documented. It's factual. So one of the heads of Karl Rove's super PAC, who ran this whole orchestra, started to chirp. He started to talk. He was to the hill. He was due to under oath. When you testify in front of Congress, you're under oath, and that's what the FDA, that's what's so outrageous. The FDA went on the tobacco. Tobacco is not addictive. Tobacco, I mean, you're under oath. They take, that's perjury. That's against the law. But it doesn't matter. There's two sets of law. So he's due to go on the hill. Bloop, he's dead. I mean, it's amazing. Pat Tillman keeping a journal. So they come out and you think about that. It's a lie of the whole war. So Pat Tillman's keeping a journal. He went because to pay his acting career. He knew the NFL, his career. Why do you think he took his brother with him? You know, that's what they did, just like that's what Custer did. You know, go round up some Indians. That's how you ran for president. But he was going to be the next John Wayne. He was keeping a journal. You know, that's where Hastings was dead. Not Hastings. Michael Rupert was dead freaking wrong. I argued with Michael Rupert, right? He says he was arrogant. Bullshit. That's how that works. You want to be a special forces? You're a young guy? Go take the test. It's on physical and mental capability. That's how you're placed. They don't give a shit. It's not about freaking, you know, it's not a seniority thing. Oh, hell no. This guy was brilliant. I mean, he's playing DB in the NFL. Are you kidding? A white boy? I mean, you want to talk about athletic? You want to talk brilliant? Just like his mom and his dad? Genius? That's why he made his brother go with him. So they get him separated, and now it comes out 10 years later. Outside the Lines is the best investigative journalist in the country. Jeremy Schaap, they do that brilliant piece, and that kid now, he's crying in his evangelical church with his fake bullshit. I think I killed Pat Tillman. Oh, what a minute. I thought Pat Tillman warded off not doing Al-Qaeda, freaking fighting, you know, he's the greatest hero. They waved his body like a flag for years. It's so outrageous. Yet his mom, it didn't make sense to him, the story. So his mom, Freedom of Information Act, dug in. She, you know, they try to hide it. You request Freedom of Information docket, they'll bury it in one paragraph, and you'll have to read pages and pages and pages. She did it. There it is, and the three bullets were so tight together. She's like, this doesn't make sense. He wasn't shot, freaking in valor, and all this thing's a lie. She goes to a mortician, you know, forensic 101 freshman. He could figure this out, and he says, oh no, I mean, that's a spray. He's very, very close range. So she starts talking. You know, a couple documentary filmmakers in 2009, 2010. And 6 years later, you know, oh, it's all a lie. She's on CNN with her and her ex-husband. He's the attorney in Scottsdale. They're on every media show, and they're telling. But before that, young O'Neill, who's with him, he's on the Hill. He's testifying. He's the only one that tells the truth. So he's under oath. You know, Jennifer Trace, the whole McChrystal, I mean, we know all those lying rats. You know, ask Michael Hastings. They're under oath, and they lie under oath. And there's no accountability for lying under oath, so they just do it. He's the only one that told the truth. He told the truth. He knows the truth. And the guy who was driving the front of the ambulance, it was an order of execution. They got him and his brother separated. You know, flat tire, call in a freaking, you know, guy to come fix it. I mean, it's a crazy story. He threw the flare. They saw the flare. And O'Neill said, you know, his last words, I am Pat fucking Tillman. You know, they knew it was him because they were ordered to kill him. They burned his freaking journal, wave his flag like a body. If you don't believe they do that shit, then what about Jessica Lynch? She had to sue to get back her Congressional Medal of Honors, all her first awards. I mean, what they did to her, I mean, they just make it up, sit around the freaking White House. Read David Fromm's book, The Press Secretary. He says it. They would sit around the freaking thing with their, you know, Cheney's attorney and all of them. the biggest Benedict Arnolds in world history, the greatest crimes against humanity in history. And they got away with it. You know, that's the only reason Obama got elected. Everybody thought Obama voted against the war. This guy is an anti-war guy. When he has droned how many people? I mean, how? They got to him. I think they really got to him. I think, you know, he got intoxicated with greed, in love with himself, on those famous person, and that was a big piece of it. But, you know, they had him molded from the beginning, but I think he had some good intentions. You remember he called Steve Chinese jobs to the White House? What about terrorists? There ain't jobs left and ain't never coming back. I always say, well, the only thing that come back is Steve Chinese jobs. So they'll come back. You know, baby boomers don't live forever. This generation is going to end. And the next generation is going to say, well, how insane were these people? How stupid were these people? This has been the two biggest failed experiments in human history. Free market in the United States post-1980 to present. But the one even bigger, nuclearism, 1930s to present. It's been the greatest failure. And it's so outrageous. It's looted the country. It's poisoned the earth. It's a mass murder. And people say, oh, eugenics? Well, think about it if it was eugenics. Is it a way to threaten people through bombs and blow up a reactor to, you know, as a war machine? Yeah, they can use it that way. People say, oh, they did Fukushima. Please. You're so arrogant you don't think earthquakes happen, tsunamis happen, just like at San Onofre in Diablo Canyon, California. Oh, you don't have one? You don't even know how Diablo Canyon was named then. The Spaniards were standing on the beach there with the Chumash, when it used to be called the Mother's Heart. They were apple growers. When they landed there, and right where they were sitting there, an earthquake and tsunami happened. Right there where Diablo Canyon's at, in that sacred grounds. And the Spaniards named it the Devil. And they used to call it the Mama's Heart. I call it Blue Hearts on Valentine's Day. Remember on my gig down there? So they happen. But they're so arrogant they don't care. They're like, whatever. I mean, they're so intoxicated with money and greed, they'll do anything for money and greed. Anything. Anything. They don't care. They don't care to kill their own family, the future, the bird. You think they care? They're killing themselves. They don't care. It's about greed and power. You know, the levels of addiction was written how many years ago? And it's so accurate. You know, the levels of addiction start out, you know, and they rise. Drugs, alcohol, you know, gambling, sex. But the top of the heap has always been greed and power, and it's the most hardcore. These people are intoxicated with it. They're so freaking intoxicated and addicted and gonzoed on it, and we just keep feeding their addiction. You know, they fly around in their Learjets, they're pampered, you look at those early speeches when Obama showed up in Europe. I mean, you could just see him feeding on it. His arrogance just is swelling. You know, he's only human, they're feeding him. You know, he shows up now, he had so much political goodwill, and look what he did with it. I mean, he could have changed the world. He could have been one of the most transformational figures in world history. He had a choice. Ralph Nader said it right off the get. Ralph Nader said, he can either be Uncle Tom or Frederick Douglass. You know, we all said, we called him Uncle Tom Alabama to get it, but I've come to the conclusion, how can he be Uncle Tom? Uncle Tom had to be black, and he was a slave. He's no Uncle Tom. It's like they were said for years, is he playing checkers or chess? And I said a long time ago, he's playing Monopoly. Bill Clinton talked to him. He admits it. Bill Clinton went to him and says, quit fighting this. Quit fighting this. Go along, and you be like me. You know how much money Bill Clinton has made post-presidency? He's a billionaire. That's right, a billionaire he's become. So he's like, just play ball. You know, get in the club, and you'll be one of the richest people on earth. He says it. Obama says it. Bush said it. Bush says, I'm going to follow the Clinton playbook post-presidency. Take all the money. Corruption, well, you know, Bush doesn't have his wife as Secretary of the State. You know, part of it, it's amazing, the Clinton machine, what they vacuumed up. I honestly, truly believe Donald Trump works for Hillary Clinton. Now, he's backed away from it like he does everything. He's such a liar. But he says that him and Bill Clinton started to talk all the time. You look at these turnouts of Bernie Sanders. You don't think they've got it captured? He had 27,000 people the other night. You see any media covering him? You see the polls when he debates, he wins 80-20. So how's Hillary possibly ahead in the polls? Because they lie on the polls. The FDA lies on the studies. They find why, Clyde Cooley with that great professor mentored me. Figures don't lie, liars figure. That's exactly what it is. Figures don't lie, liars figure. The polls are captured. The districts are jerry-rigged. You can't believe the media. It's a machine. It's a political freaking machine that's captured, and everybody's hypnotized. Lock, stock, barrel. So he's making fun of handicapped people now? Really? I mean, you think about how obscene that is. So in order to get the Republican nominee, this is how the Republican Party, Colorado, painted it into a corner. They can never win a presidential election. Never, never, never. Because they painted themselves into a corner with their insanity. They got nothing but the white, middle-aged freaking male, or, older male, that hates gays, hates handicapped people, hates women, this tiny, tiny club, they get thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner. There ain't enough of those guys to carry no general election. Not even close. I still believe, nobody could be this insane to get he's got the Republican Party nominee so locked up, so why would he be going along? Is he just a monster? Well, of course we know he's a fraud. It's been well documented his real net worth is minus $200 to $300 million. Right to now, today. Donald Trump's real net worth is minus $2. He's blown billions of dollars. His dad's money, bank's money. He's the guy that used to quote that line all the time. If you owe the bank a little bit of money, it's the bank's problem, or your problem. If you owe the bank a lot of money, it's the bank's problem. He's weaseled out of so many deals and screwed so many people. He's lost billions. Think about the hairspray as I go off. I call it the hairspray the new wig. Isn't he the capitulation? He takes the hair from the back of his head and has a person do it every day, and he folds it over to the top of his head and folds it and then glues it to the top of his head. That's what that is. Do you know how insane that is? You know what a clown? I told somebody, Comedy Central, CNN, and Fox News has bought Comedy Central. Their new fall lineup is the GOP debates. And then, the Democrat debate, I think probably if you had a real poll, Bernie's probably way ahead. The polls are hijacked. They're liars. Everybody wants to be on the winning team. Everybody wants to be. They think they're going to next Tom Brady. They're going to next King James. They're going to be the next American Idol. It's a fairy tale. You stand on moral ground. You could be like Rosa Parks. The media's going to wrap around you. The public's going to wrap around you. Yeah, like they did Aaron Swartz, huh? Like they did Megan Rice, huh? Like they did Michael Hastings. You ever read that article Michael Hastings wrote in Rolling Stone? Brilliant. It's he lost his wife in Afghanistan. He was there. So they use white phosphorus on their own men. You look at that video of me refereeing that argument between those young Marines in front of the White House. I was hoping somebody had it, because I didn't have my video going. Nobody had a video. We're just sitting there. That kid throws down his boots and they're fighting, and I'm refereeing that thing. Really, that's what it is. Remember when John Kerry stood in the same place, did about the same thing, walked over to the Potomac and threw his Purple Hearts in the Potomac? Now look at him. Oh, yeah, he's skull and bones, too. He's married to who? Teresa Hines? Do you know about Teresa Hines? What about Senator Hines? Yeah, she was married to him. The senator from Ohio, the multi-billionaire. Oh, another whistleblower, dead. What about Paul Wellstone? Same time, dead. How does she be married? Do you know who she is? Oh, the CIA family that killed the freaking president down there? Yeah, that's her family. How does she jump from Senator Hines to John Kerry? Married to them both. What? Yeah, it's unbelievable. Look at him play ball. Because they're in the club. The Skull and Bones Club. Play ball. We'll make you rich. It's outrageous. A kid dies of freaking cancer. White phosphorus on their own Marines. Ask the Cartwright, the Joint Chief of Staff, who broke ranks and blew the whistle on Obama. Yeah, that's right. The Marine blew the whistle on Obama. That's right. There'll be no prosecution.
All nuclear fighters, all hands on deck, all hands on deck, all hands on deck. All nuclear fighters, all hands on deck, all hands on deck, all hands on deck. They'll be calling you a radical. Someday,